Welcome to In the Zone, your mental strength and endurance sports podcast presented by Maayke, sports psychologist,
Hi, everyone.
and myself, Thierry, endurance sports coach. So, Maayke, today we have an interview with Brooke Thomas. I did this interview last week. She's a runner from New Zealand. She's actually a nurse for a day job. And she just did something quite incredible. She ran, I need to look at my notes because I can't pronounce it otherwise. She ran the Te Araroa Trail, which is basically going from the north all the way south of New Zealand. So 3,000 kilometers in 57 days.
Incredible. So how many kilometers per day is that?
I think she averaged around between 50 and 70, so something like that. But she had even 2 days off due to a little injury. When she ended up in hospital actually, but it was fine in the end. But yeah, I mean, it's just 3,000 kilometers is just mind blowing. So yeah, so she was very kind to share her story. I mean, I know her from we have friends in common, and I followed her since a while. And she's been. It's just when she announced it, I thought it would be fantastic to talk to her about her journey. I tried to interview her during her run, but I mean, it was just impossible. You know, with the time zones, it was difficult to catch up, and also she was actually on course for an FKT, so fastest known time, and she achieved that. So she's now the record holder for that trail for the women's own women's time. So yeah, I just at the end I just didn't want to interrupt her amazing journey, so I waited until she finished, and she did, and she also raised 27,000 New Zealand dollars, which is around 16,000 euros.
Wow. Okay.
For a charity in New Zealand called Heart Kids. We'll put the link on the show notes. Heart Kids is a charity which basically takes care of kids with heart-related issues. You know, growing up with a heart defect or being born with a heart defect. And the interesting thing is that she actually herself obviously has a pacemaker since the age of 22. So not only it's an amazing story and an amazing achievement to have ran 3,000 kilometers in 57 days, but with a pacemaker, you know, so I think her story is really, really incredible.
Yes.
So there's a few themes I want to maybe we can talk about before we put the interview, and I hope you guys will really enjoy the interview. Theme number one for me was, so at the age of 22, before that she was rowing. She was rowing competitively for New Zealand, and then she got diagnosed with this heart condition, and she had to put a pacemaker, and that ultimately ended her career in rowing. How do you deal with that? With that, it could be a simple injury, but this is even a career-ending injury. How can we cope with that mentally?
Well, I mean, we should ask her, but I think her story is so remarkable that I would, even looking at the theory of what we call resilience, I still find it incredible what she did. And but what I noticed from her story was that she is just so positive, and she always kept this a positive attitude throughout her life, and still everything she does, she sees as an opportunity to improve herself, to go on an adventure, to be open for alternatives, because she was a rower, which is a very specific sport. And I know a lot of rowers, and if you are in that sport, that's something you really love. So it must have been super tough for her to leave that sport, but she was clearly open for alternatives. So and she loved running, So I think what made her doing this eventually was just she created a new dream, and she just, you know, she didn't let herself be or see the negativity or the negative side of her injury. She just, you know, she created a new dream, new plans, and she went for it. And I think she wasn't afraid of failing or to take risks, because obviously if you embark such an adventure, especially with an injury like she has, you have to be, you know, open and also be very realistic and aware about the fact that you might not be able to achieve it. But listening to her, she's so positive. She doesn't leave any room for hesitation, or although she's super humble, I mean, but she doesn't leave room for hesitation. She just goes for something. That's, I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I think that what really comes across in the interview is that her positive attitude through everything, whether it's running or life in general, and that's most certainly, again, I don't want to speak for herself, but it's what probably really helped her, that positive attitude. Once you always, I guess, go through doubt when you've had and some down thoughts when you have to go through an operation like this and eventually ending your career. But she didn't let that event, in a way, ruin her life. She basically kept on being positive, kept on finding new challenges and new ways of challenging herself, and found running to be a great outlet. And she says she just runs for fun, you know, she's just enjoying herself. And so being able to run that 3,000 kilometers, you know, it's just something incredible. And I think we all can learn from that story, whether obviously she went through a career ending event, but it could just be an injury. You know, you could break your leg, you could do something, and like yourself, yeah. And that's not the end, you know. It might take time, yes, but you can overcome that with a positive attitude. And if you can really see the light at the end of the tunnel, you can overcome all these injuries and fears.
Yeah, and I think that she considered herself as a lucky person. I didn't hear her saying that, but it reminds me of an interview I saw yesterday of Nadal, or maybe this morning. He was saying, look, well, even though he lost, he said, I still consider myself as being a lucky person, whether it's injury or whether it's losing a match. But you know, so it's just, you know, the perspective we take on things, that's so important. So yes, she is a remarkable person. I think what she did is incredible, but what she shows us is super inspiring. And I think we are all able to be like that. And and everything is relative. So whatever your ambition is, it doesn't matter. It's not about your ambition, how big it is, but it's just your attitude towards the future and towards the challenges you want to embark.
Yeah, and you touched on a few already few points I wanted to talk about on theme number 2, if we want, is that for me she really has an attitude of, well, a positive attitude, but that anything is possible attitude. It's just she has no fears almost. She's taking risks, but and that no fears, but almost in a naive way. You know, that okay, I've just done you know, she talked about a story when she just ran 100 kilometers in one day with her friend. And it's like, oh, to see if we could do it. You know, it's like, this is nuts, but it's great because you're taking a risk, you're pushing yourself to the limit, without really fears of failing or just, and again, that positive attitude is brilliant.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong having that fear, because I think we do have a fear. If we start any challenge, for sure there is this voice in the head that tells you that it's going to be tough, that maybe you're not going to finish it, that maybe people will think something about that. But that's all fine. It's just, it's part of your self-talk that is, you have to accept that. And I think Brooke has that as well. That's for sure. It's just impossible, because our brain is also programmed to warn us, because otherwise we would really be able to do stupid things. Some people do, but in average, the brain is pretty smart and is just keeping us from doing the real stupid stuff. So for sure, the voice is there, and it's there pretty often. But it's just, do you listen to it? Do you follow that voice? Or do you just, put it aside and create your own voice? And I think she was very, very well able to do so.
But it's also that ability to, or that thinking of, I can do it rather than I can't do it. Mm-hmm. And I guess you would put her any challenge and she would go, yeah, sure, okay, I'll give it a go. Yeah, why not? Yeah. And this is incredible. So I hear, for example, a lot of people saying, "Oh, an Ironman, it's no, it's not for me. It's too dangerous." Even when I started the sport, my parents were saying, "No, it's dangerous," and all that. And that's it. But there's a lot of people who are, I think, kind of putting boundaries on themselves, maybe a bit too early, or they're putting limits when. Mm-hmm. Is it a safety net or something, or a bit of fear? It could be, or just, but actually we're capable of so much more. Mm-hmm. And she's really proving that it's just, if you believe in yourself, if you think, just go out. She says it, just do it. Like, just go and do it. If you want to do something, whatever, if you're thinking about it, just do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, very inspirational.
No,
and she wants it. She wants it. I think we should not forget that it's true that we're capable of doing a lot, and we are often being held back by our fears and by the opinion of others. But the true core of what makes us just go for something is also, do we want it? Because it's also being authentic and being honest with yourself, because it's not the fact that we're all maybe able to run from the north to the south or south to the north. I don't remember what it was, but
I think it's north to south. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Is that I'm not saying we're all capable of doing it, but more people than we think are capable of doing that. But most people just don't want to do that. And it's just how authentic and how honest are you with yourself. But if you feel there is some fire in you, I think that's the message. Then just go and try and do that Ironman, do that marathon, do that 10K, whatever the ambition is you have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just put yourself out there.
Yes.
And I think that we're so many times afraid of failure, maybe because of in the eyes of others. Like, okay, I've tried and I've done an Ironman, and someone maybe signs up for an Ironman, then I don't know, doesn't finish the run or something, and you have a DNF, but it's, if you don't try, you'll never do it. So
exactly, and you don't learn, because it's not that after one try you are successful. Most people have to try 1,000 times, and with that experience comes knowledge about yourself, about the sport, about anything that is necessary, all the ingredients that finally make you, finish something or be successful at something.
Yeah. No, so here, I guess I'm not trying to encourage people to run 3,000 kilometers, but I think what her story shows that if you want something, don't be afraid of signing up for something that you are dreaming of. For sure there's preparation, and that's our next point, and there's going to be pain, there's going to be suffering, but the and the goal and achieving that and whatever is just if you really want to do something, you can do it. Yeah. And I found her self-belief as well, she's very confident. I found confident in a good way, in a very, again, naive way, very confident, that self-belief, but at the same time so humble. I remember when I asked her, "Oh, do you mind if we can interview you for the podcast?" And she said, "I don't really consider myself an athlete. I don't know." And I said, "You're running 3,000 kilometers. You're for sure an athlete. I can tell you. And it doesn't matter whether you're an athlete or not an athlete. What you're doing is extraordinary." And so it's a super humble attitude.
Yes.
And really an inspiration. But point number 3, we talked a little bit already, but preparation.
Yeah.
Again, you can't do a challenge like this without preparing a little.
Yes.
So what did you take from her preparation? Or maybe we talk about this, and I encourage people to listen to our episode number 4, where we talk in depth about planning, preparation for workouts, for events, for your season. So please go on, and I'll put again the link at the bottom, but it's episode number 4. She had really, in a way, a very meticulous planning for each stage. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, her preparation in terms of physical preparation maybe wasn't like, it was there, but it was pretty quick. It's not like, but it's almost, you cannot almost prepare for an event like this.
Mm-hmm. No.
So her tips of the one stage at a time, break down the course, that's part of your preparation for the day, for the stage. But I thought that she had a routine again on food, on rest. Like, it sounded like the 57 days were very, very different of course, with running, but also very similar. And that's something we talked about, which is key to have that routine in place.
Yes. Yeah, I think embarking on such incredible adventure with so many unknown, I think preparing helps us to save time, because you cannot run, if you lose too much time, then at a certain point in time, it doesn't make sense anymore. So she did it pretty fast, and she had like each day running like 50K. The only way to do that without losing track, without, to make sure you're back in time, you have enough sleep, you eat at the right moment, you have to plan it. And I think that for the rest, it's just the acceptance of the unknown, but there is still so much left that is unknown. And so I think it's a very, very important message that whatever you can plan, you have to plan. Because otherwise, I don't think you're able to finish it.
Yeah, and also having a plan B to sort of, in that sort of event, you've got to be able to negotiate a little bit, because it could be weather, it could be, she told us about the river crossings, the tides and the things like that. So it's an incredible amount of preparation went through that. And she got a lot of help actually from other competitors who did it years before. Mm-hmm. And I found that a quite nice story as well, that, in that world of endurance sports, or the endurance runners, they don't really mind sharing you their tips and whatever. It's not that competitive, or I'm keeping everything for myself and I want, they're very much in a helping way. And I thought that was really nice from the other guys to share the roots with her.
Yeah. I think the reason for that is because it really made me think. I thought that it's really true. In that world, people do share a lot. And why is that? Because I think there is so much left that is unknown, that's challenge enough to compete.
Yeah.
So if you just help each other to give tips and to say, look, make sure to take a lot into consideration before you start. I don't know. I've never been there, but I think that the environment is pretty challenging. But then still there is so much left that you do not know and that you have to face when you're there, that there's still a lot of room for competition between the people who do it.
Yeah, no, that sense of camaraderie, I think, is really there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you see it in a lot of events where basically you'll hand out a gel or hand out a whatever equipment you can because they've lost it or something, so I think that sense of camaraderie is there. And
yes.
And also what I really liked is the fact that she had a support crew with her parents, and who basically took the time to be with her, and she obviously she says that she wouldn't have done it without them. And I think it's an important message to everybody that if you are attempting, what we say, just go out there and do your dream or whatever, but have your family or your friends on board. This is something key, to have a support network around you that really embraces what you're doing. I wouldn't be able to do my Ironman, for example, if my wife wasn't on board or something like that. I think it's a key aspect of especially endurance sports, because it does take a lot of time, and having that your family on board and supporting what you're doing is a must.
Yes, and we both noticed how self-confident she is and humble. I think one of the keys to the self-confidence within athletes comes from the parents, from the support of the parents, and belief of the parents that you can make it. And I know out of also experience that parents can be super difficult in the career, and sometimes a hurdle in the career of an athlete, because they project their own ambitions on the child, or they are too pushy, or they don't give enough room for the child or for the athlete to develop himself. But if the parent is just, facilitating and truly believing in you and also your friends and your family, then there's nothing stronger than that. Because of course you have to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe in you? But then the next most important party in that are your parents or your family.
Yeah. No, and then final point I had was a few things we already talked about in a few episodes, but those mental strength tricks, and we picked up. She has a lot of them, and that positive thinking to start with. That's for me. It's throughout the whole episode. She's just so positive. She's got light at the end of the tunnel. Just get past that point and it'll be better. That is for me really. And I was telling when we raced the other night, saying on the Zwift racing that just hang on that one extra second and you might feel better, and that always that positive thing rather than, I can't do it. And then you finish. So I thought that was really good. The self-talk as well. You talked about it quite often. That's the power of self-talk.
Yes. So ask yourself, what do I need when things get difficult? What do I need then at that moment? Just talk to yourself. Just come up with a mantra. But I would also argue that these kind of techniques, it's nice because you can go to a mental coach for that, or you can read a book about it. But the best thing is to experiment with it yourself. So there is no sense in preparing something without trying it while training, for example. Just see what works best for you. Some people have one sentence, some people have one word, some people have music. It's really something you have to figure out for yourself. But you do need to figure it out before you embark on such a challenge.
And it's practice, I guess, as well.
Yes, practice, exactly. Yeah.
No, and the last one was that trick was basically being inspired by others, and those others for her in that journey was the messages she received from people that were going to go through an operation, parents of children who were having as well, heart conditions. And that, she said just scrolling through the comments or her email, that gave her that boost and just,
Yes.
gave her wings in a way.
Yes. Yeah. So we're back to why am I doing this?
Yeah.
So it gives a reason to get going. It's just not only for yourself. Because obviously, if you're in such a challenge and things are really getting tough, then you could ask yourself, but why the hell am I running here on my own, crossing a river, getting a cold? Well, the answer is difficult unless you have another reason to go for, and that her reason was super inspiring.
Yeah. No, it's a really, really good interview. I enjoyed talking to her. I enjoyed following her whole journey. She was posting quite a bit on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Again, we'll put all the links on the show notes. Well, with no further ado, here is Brooke. Enjoy the interview. All right, so Brooke, welcome to In the Zone. And we are here today to talk about your absolutely epic challenge that you've done. So maybe you just want to introduce yourself a little bit, tell us about who you are, where you're from, your background, and what the hell you've just done.
Yeah, well, I'm Brooke. I am a Kiwi, and I've just finished running the length of New Zealand. So, yeah.
You ran how many kilometers was that?
So it's 3,000 Ks in total. So you go right from the top at Cape Reinga down to through both islands down to Bluff at the very bottom. And it's like a network it's off-road, so it's a whole network of trails that are connected. So you're kind of going over mountains and through rivers and through all the backcountry of New Zealand. So,
but it's a special trail, right? It's called, what is it? My pronunciation will be rubbish so can you tell us the name of the trail?
Yeah, so it's called the Te Araroa Trail, which means the long pathway in Maori.
So it goes all the way north to south of New Zealand.
Yeah.
3,000 kilometers in how many days?
Yes, it was 57 days.
57
12
days.
hours and 16 minutes to be exact.
Wow. So 50.
Yeah.
So that's how many kilometers per day? Let's do roughly. You were doing what? What were you averaging more or less?
So I had to have 2 days of not running. I had a bit of a health issue up north, but if you include those days in the count up, which obviously you have to for the record, it was about 45 Ks a day on average in the North Island, and then about 60 Ks a day in the South Island.
Wow. But just before we talk about the challenge, tell us a bit more about yourself. So what's your day job? What do you do? Do you have a sporting background? I mean, because you don't just do a challenge like that with no sporting background, I guess. So tell us.
I don't know. I think it's important for people to know that you don't have to be a super athlete. So yeah, I do have, I guess I used to row competitively. And so I guess I do have a fairly decent sporting background from that. But with running, it's always just been something I love doing, and I love being outside. So it wasn't, I don't have an impressive kind of race history at all. I had only done a handful of ultras, like about maybe 5 or 6 ultras before doing this event. I just thought running the length of my own country seemed like something that would be very cool to do.
Yeah.
So, and work-wise, I'm a nurse. So I work in the hospital in Queenstown, which is a perfect place for training. We've got, the perfect backyard for all the mountains and trails for running on.
Oh, it's one of my dream destinations. So I'd love to visit New Zealand. So you rode competitively. So that's what, sort of when you were a teenager, or like early, like in your early 20s or something, or what was the sort of, or university? What was your rowing background then?
Yeah, so I first got into rowing because in my last year of high school, I was very small and they needed a coxswain, someone to steer the boat.
Okay.
And so they asked me if I'd jump in. And so I did that for the first season. And then the next year I finally grew a little bit. And so I started racing in the boat. And yeah, I rode for university. And then I rode for New Zealand as an under 21.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So very high level.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. You don't have to underestimate. I mean, it's rowers do have, I coach a few guys who are ex-rowers, and there's something about rowing that just teaches you whatever it is, mental toughness, or just that engine is just incredible. What is it about rowing?
It's a pretty gnarly sport, really. Like, there's not a lot of you know, it's pretty tough. You're just going backwards in a boat, and it's painful.
At like 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Yeah. Is that also the case? Or first light, so not even light?
Yeah, always first thing in the morning, and then afternoon sessions as well. We'd normally be doing 2 sessions a day, like 6 days a week. Yeah, wow. So it's pretty full on.
So you're rowing, and running was kind of like a pastime, I guess, like something you... was that after your rowing career, if you want? Or
I've always enjoyed running just as an outlet. So like it was, especially during rowing days, just something I could do, and I could just get out into the hills. I didn't wear a watch. I just got away, because rowing was so intense, and you're always either racing against other boats, or you're racing against numbers on the machine and trying to improve. And so running was just a thing I just did, that I didn't have to compete.
So no numbers, no pace, no, just out there, you in nature, basically.
Exactly.
Just the feeling of running.
Yeah.
And so that brings us to basically what you've done, your challenge. Why this challenge? Why that long, that far? Just that, it's just such an 3,000 kilometers in 57 days. Wow.
Yeah. I guess in general in life, the people that inspire me the most are the ones that do these sorts of crazy things. And anything that kind of scares me, or you think it might not be achievable, is the kind of thing I normally want to try. If it scares you and excites you, then it's definitely something you should do, I think. So I wanted to run. I've wanted to run the length of the country for years.
But run or walk, or like kind of hike? Was that always running you wanted to do it, or maybe just doing that trail?
I think, there's pros and cons to whichever way you go. And walking, I know a lot of the walkers, because a lot of people do this trail. I think a lot of the walkers sort of almost pitied me, because they thought I was going so fast that I didn't have time to stop and enjoy it. And I understand that mentality. But for me, I love, like, if you run 60 Ks in a day, you see so much, and so much can change. And you can be running through the city, and then you're into a mountain, and then over a river. And I don't know, I just think it's such a cool way to travel. And I'm not patient enough to walk either.
Yeah, that would have been, you need to take a year off, I mean.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it was a couple of years ago that I had decided I thought this would be something I'd like to do in my life. And then I was on, I'd had a look at, people who had done it before, and I had seen Mina Holder's website. She set a record, I think it was 2012. And then I was living in Wellington at the time, and there was a girl running the country on the road, and she'd made it halfway through the country, and she was up in Wellington, and they'd done a little news article on her on breakfast TV, and it was being filmed just at the end of my road. So I went down just to see if I could kind of chat and like, hear about how her experience had been. And Mina, the girl that set the record on the trail, she was support crewing this girl. And so we just got chatting, and Mina turned out to live around the corner from me, and we became friends and went running together. And she just helped make it all seem like a normal thing to be attempting. And so it kind of just came together from that.
So that was the idea, was that inspiration from this runner who had done it, basically?
Yeah, well, so I had wanted to do it, and then I just had the stroke of luck to meet her and run with her, and then it just became, okay, this is happening, let's do it.
So tell us about then the preparation. How do you prepare for something like that?
Well, I wasn't very sort of clever, I guess. I've had the idea for years, but unfortunately I've been really good at breaking my bones, and I've broken 8 different bones in the last 10 years, which isn't great for training, because each time you kind of have 3 months off or whatever to rehab. So running was I just continued to run for fun and talk a lot to Mina about the logistics, because that's by far the hardest part of this mission. Just trying to figure out, if you're going to do it in a set amount of days, how to break down how far you're going to go each day, where you're going to stay, how you're going to meet your crew. And in the North Island, there's a lot of river crossings and kayak sections and tide times over beaches and all of that you have to kind of navigate. So that was the biggest part, is kind of getting my head around that stuff. And Mina and also George Henderson, who did the record last year as well, they were just amazing sources of information for helping me. So
there's something great about this community of like ultra runners, where it is competitive, but I think people are more than willing to help and share their experience. There's no kind of I'm keeping the secrets for myself. I feel that people are really, even in the endurance cycling, people are very willing to share and give tips,
which is so cool, because like they strip away that competitive nature, and they just want to see you achieve and enjoy what they've enjoyed. Which
And how long was it in preparation for then? Was that because you don't just take 2 months off or something like that? It was like a year ago you just went, okay, this is happening, or 2 years ago? How long did it really take you to, and the planning of each stage, kind of how detailed was that?
So like I say, the idea had been churning over, and then 2 years ago, so 2019, I'd kind of decided, I moved to, like, I was slowly getting myself ready for so I moved from Wellington down to Queenstown with the whole intention of just having a better place to train for this. Mm-hmm. But that year I broke my ankle, and so I couldn't do it in 2019. And then last year, obviously with COVID, it was a bit up in the air, and I started thinking, shouldn't I for this, trying to pull off something like that over a year when there's a pandemic going on, maybe wasn't the best idea. But I went for a run with a guy called Adam Keane, who's my coach now, just after our lockdown. So that would have been in about May. And just told him about what I was thinking, and he just said, well, let's make it happen. And so that was the first time I'd ever had a coach. And he made me buy a watch and got me into the gym and made me turn into a bit more of a serious runner, I guess. So that was probably 5 months before I left.
Wow. So you said you did a couple of ultras. Then how far had you ran? What was the sort of distances you ran before?
So I think I had done maybe 3 ultra races, which were like 55, 60K kind of distance. And then I had done over our lockdown my friend and I just did 100K as a kind of a, let's see what we can do.
100 kilometers.
100Ks, yeah.
Morning jog. Finishes in the evening.
Pretty much.
You tired yet? No. Let's keep going.
Yeah, we did it as because neither of us knew if we could do it or not, and so we did it as like 3 different loops, and each time would loop back to the car. Yeah. So we went around different different kind of trails around Queenstown.
Wow,
it was really awesome.
How long did that take you?
We weren't racing.
No, but I mean this.
14 hours or something.
Wow, that's good going.
But it was a few like decent mountain climbs as well. So yeah, it was it was cool.
And so the I mean, in when I tell people, when I coach people, the preparation is just basically key. When you prepare an event. So how detailed was your preparation? You can't know every single trail of the whole thing, but you kind of know what to expect, what sort of terrain, the elevation. How varied is that trail? Because obviously you're going through the whole length of New Zealand. So you could have the 4 seasons in your 2 months.
And I did. Totally did. And yeah, the trail itself is very such a mix. So like the North Island, there's a lot of beaches, and you're running along the beaches. Like the first 2 days were both 70K days, and I was on the beach the entire day, which is a long
on the sand.
Way. Sand, yeah. 70Ks with sand and no shade, but it was beautiful. And then, you are running through crazy muddy forests with, rocks and roots. Like New Zealand trails are not always like perfectly maintained. And so they're pretty like rough underfoot. And then you're going through rivers and over mountain passes. And then there are some road sections. And through fields, you really get everything.
Wow, I mean, and you mentioned you had as well, so your support crew. So in that preparation, they also have to know everything, and that's even more planning for them almost, because where you're going on these trails, I guess they had a van or a car, or what was because they can't go everywhere, I guess.
So my very obliging.
They did maybe 10,000 kilometers instead of
I ran 3,000 and they drove 6,000, literally.
Wow.
Yeah. So, they had a camper. I kind of coerced my parents into doing this trip with me.
Oh, that's nice.
But once they originally said no, because my brother just had a new baby in Perth in Australia, and they wanted to go and meet the grandson. But because of lockdown, they couldn't get over there. So it was kind of the silver lining for me that they decided they would be willing to support crew me. And my dad was amazing. He had just retired last year. And so he took this on as like a full-time job and really, really had all the details and the logistics sorted. He just took that part away from, because I was studying, I was working shift work. I was trying to train and trying to plan for this event. There was so much going on. So he really took care of that side of it. And then when we were on the trail, each night he'd just kind of give me the maps and the details for the next day. And he would have highlighted like, okay, you've got to watch out for these tide times. You've got to be here by this time of day, or else you're not going to get across the river or whatever. I wouldn't have been able to do it without him at all.
To have a crew, and I think we quite often forget the job of the crew can be just as hard as the what the athlete is trying to do, if not more, because they're going to probably sleep less. They're going to always worry and always kind of trying to find another route. Where are you? And whatever, ask all these questions, but that's taking all the stress away from you so that you can just run and do your own thing. And I guess when you get back to the van, the last thing you want to know is kind of to make a decision on where to go, whatever. That's kind of, if that's taken away from you, that's just brilliant. So a good support crew is such an important thing to have in these challenges, no?
Yeah, for sure. And like I was saying earlier, that all three of us were absolute amateurs in a game like this. Like, obviously, my parents are just my parents. They'd never, and they don't really have sporting backgrounds themselves. But they did such an amazing job. Yeah, and poor Dad, like every time I looked at him for the 2 months that we were away, he was staring at the maps and staring at the schedule that we'd kind of put together, thinking, okay, she's going to go a bit further than that yesterday, so we're going to try and get her across this section today, or just it's such a headache.
No blocked van or flat tire or something, whatever, or just
they had
stopped by a river or whatever.
They got stuck at one point and had to get pulled out, and I didn't even know about it because like it was right at the very end of the trip.
Okay.
And I was so kind of focused on what I was doing by then, they didn't even bother to tell me for a few days. Like, they got it sorted. They found a farmer who helped pull them out, and yeah, they carried on.
Yeah, it was amazing. But isn't it like what we said before, that these challenges happen, and it doesn't really matter whether you have these, I don't know if you've heard about the trails of you've got the Scott Jurek guys who do the Appalachian Trail in the US, and that's like really top of the trail running world, and it's a famous trail, and they're all going for the record and whatever. And yeah, you're just having fun and with your parents, and just setting actually yourself a fastest known time for that trail, but just basically having fun, and with no real maybe expectations, or just very much the old school way of just going out there and running and enjoying it. And there's so many, sometimes I think we get too bogged down into the numbers in terms of, for example, marathon, I want to do a sub 3 or sub 4 or whatever it is, where there's so many different challenges that you can do, which I guess, well, in your case, many people have done it, but if you push yourself like you've done, you can do something pretty incredible.
Well, I have a few things to say about that, because on the one hand, the FKTs you're talking about in America, and the ones that have been really heavily kind of attempted, I guess the New Zealand Trail, I had the benefit that the pressure there hasn't been a huge amount of attempts so far, so there wasn't that huge pressure. It wasn't like, you're really, really trying to push everything you've got for that last few minutes of difference from the last guy, kind of thing. But I also think mindset is so important. Like, with races I've done, with marathons I've done, I've often gone better when I take the pressure off myself, and I'm not necessarily focused on my watch and my numbers and stuff, and I'm just there to have a good time. You end up doing better, or at least just the same as I've done when I'm really, really driven to try and hit those numbers and target a certain, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but I think for your challenge, you almost kind of had to, because if you kind of have that sort of pressure in yourself of doing, okay, I need to do this every day, I don't know if you had put yourself that pressure or not. It seems that you kind of went, all right, let's just you had a fair sort of schedule planned, but not, was it really tight in terms of exactly where you were going to stay? Or because it seemed that you were taking it, I'm not going to say take it easy, but you were taking it as it happened, and as it, and not really putting pressure on yourself, because it's just such a ridiculous challenge. 60 days, 50 kilometers a day, that's so much that it's almost impossible to have that time into the back of your head all the time.
Yeah. So, in a way, so we did have a pretty well written out schedule, just because, like I said, the logistics of, often you'd be, if you go into a forest section or into a mountain section, like once you go in, there's no coming out until however many k's down the road, you can't always access the camper very easily. And if you choose, like if my options were either to carry a tent, which would have been extra weight, or keep running until I got to the road access and I could get to the camper each night, which was my goal. So in some ways the schedule was relatively set, but I actually got sick in the North Island and ended up having to go to hospital, which at the time was so infuriating because I had kind of had a whole week of feeling really average and couldn't cover the distance that I wanted to. But it turned out to be probably the best thing that happened because I let go of that schedule. And yeah, like you say, we just started taking it day by day, and I didn't worry about tomorrow. I just did what I could in that day. And then, it was sort of just like it took the pressure off, and I really shifted my focus to make sure I was having fun and enjoying it and not worrying about the record. I was just like, if you don't get a record, well, at least you've had 2 months of an amazing experience.
Yeah.
It worked out really well.
So maybe tell us, like, what was a typical day? I guess they were all very different, but in a way very similar.
Yeah. So in the North Island,
typical day.
The alarm would go off at like 5.
So you go off, you wake up or you start running? So it starts from waking up to all the way to the end where you sleep.
Okay, well, so there were quite a few days when I had to get up even earlier. Like I got up in the 3s and the 4s quite a few days because there was tide times to get across, or had to get across the beach before the tide came up or something like that.
Wow.
But on a typical day when there was none of that to worry about, and normally the alarm would normally go off at about 5, and then because we were in a camper, Dad would put the kettle on, and the water pump was under my bed, and so it was like, okay, Brooke, you have to get up now. And then breakfast. So I'd have breakfast number 1, as quickly as possible.
What was your breakfast?
Breakfast number 1 was normally like porridge with fruit and yogurt, a coffee, a cup of electrolytes that my mum would very lovingly kind of put, like, she'd get everything ready for me and I'd just walk out and have it handed to me. It was like
clothes and things like that or whatever, or gear. And
I moved out of home when I was 17, and man, having mum look after me again was amazing. But yeah, so I'd have breakfast. Dad would be telling me to hurry up and get out the door because the day was getting wasted. I'd go, normally, like in the North Island, there's a lot more road access. So I would head out, probably do maybe 20 odd K, and then I'd meet mum and dad again for second breakfast, which was normally bacon and eggs and hash browns and all the calories that I could fit in, and coffee. And then I'd take off again. And it just depended on the trail of the day. But I'd either take food with me, like normally sandwiches, or if I could meet mum and dad again, then I would. And I was always aiming, like it was a good day if I could get home and finish by about 6:37 at night. Just to give myself like a couple hours before I had to, to go to bed and get up again and do it again the next day. Yeah. But 6:37 was not always achievable. It just depended. And you, I mean, for you guys, it's the summer, obviously. So it's so you have a lot of daylight, or is it just a bit of an issue? What sort of time you had to really get in by? I mean, I had my head torch anyway, but daylight was on my side for sure. And as you come further south, the nights are a lot longer, so it's light. It's very light until about 10 o'clock at night in summer down in the South Island. You've got plenty of hours to play with.
But if you're back at 6, 7, something like that, you have dinner as quick as possible. Kind of do you have any sort of recovery routines, like stretching, or maybe just, I don't know, just eating and go to sleep? Or what was your routine after that?
Yeah, so I'd come in, I'd have a protein shake that mum would hand me, and then I'd go up and have a shower, they'd cook dinner, and then I would roll, like use a foam roll.
Yeah.
And but nothing too, because I was always going the next day, I couldn't get into any deep tissue stuff. So it was just a bit of a light roll and a stretch. Talk about the next day with Dad, and then try to get an early night, but camper life was hard to ever, like I think, you know, when you set your alarm and it tells you how many hours of sleep you've got. I think the entire trip, there was only one night when I got more than 8 hours of sleep. The rest of the time was like 6 or 7, which wasn't much sleep. Yeah. But
okay, it's better than the 3 or 4 or whatever. So it's still 6 hours. It's okay. Yeah. For sure, if you have to wake up at 5 every day, it's pretty challenging.
Yeah, but I think nurse life, you know, from doing night shifts.
Yes, with shift work,
I'm a little bit used to that kind of thing. So,
exactly. So sleep deprivation for you is not so much the challenge. But I guess did you feel any? So during the day, when you're running, and you're obviously running on your own most of the time, or you maybe sometimes had friends joining, or how did that go?
Yeah, so I did pretty much the entire North Island on my own. But just the very, very last couple days, I had friends join me. And then the South Island, I was pretty spoilt because the South Island's a lot more mountainous, and there's quite a few sections when you're kind of out there for a few days at a time, and you can't get back out to the road or to the camper or whatever. So I was pretty lucky with friends joining me, and it was also over Christmas, so people were available.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was probably maybe, I don't know, 2/3 on my own and 1/3 with company.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And again, so as I told you before on this podcast, we'd like to talk about sort of the mental aspect. So what is it that during the day, obviously you're going through probably a roller coaster of emotions. At the beginning, you might feel great, and after 5 or 10K, you already feel rubbish. And then, you know, it goes up, goes down. What did you do to keep yourself, you know, sane and motivated? You know, I don't know, do you use music? Do you use podcasts? What is it? Or just a scenery? Just tell us about mentally how you were during the day.
Yeah, all of those things.
Not all, everything. Yeah.
It was, you know, from one day to the next, sometimes it would be the morning that I'd feel great, and the next day I might be really tired in the morning, but then I'd feel better in the afternoon. I did a lot. There's a lot of self-talk, you know, and I played with numbers in my head a lot. So if I had
that self-talk, what about that self-talk, if you don't mind sharing? If you,
yeah, or just, you know, just convincing yourself to keep going, right?
Yeah.
And in whichever way you can. So like I was about to say, I would break down the day. So if it was a 60K day, I'd tell myself, okay, it's just 2:30s, worry about the morning's 30 first. And then I'd break that down. It's like 2:15s. And then you'd get, as you got 5 done, then it was like turned into just 2 10s and a 5 or whatever. I did that all the time. I was constantly churning over with that. And then, thinking about others that had done it before and thinking, well, they did it, so what's to say you can't? Yeah. Thinking a lot about so I was fundraising for Heart Kids, and just thinking about the struggles that they go through, or anyone with a health condition, and just the fact that what I was doing, maybe it was hard at times, but I was choosing to be there, and it was really a privilege to be there, which I think is probably my biggest motivator, to just remind yourself how lucky you are to have the body that can do it, to be in a country where you can you're safe and you've got these beautiful places to be out running, family that were willing to support me. So yeah, it was kind of just like anytime that got tough, I just think snap out of it really and get on with it, because you're so lucky to be here right now.
Yeah, I think your strategy of breaking the course down is just so important. It's such a great tool, because you can't on day one go, okay, 3,000 kilometers left. You know, you just, you cannot think like that. There's no way, you know, even like you said, on a day of 60 kilometers, you've got to break it down in, like you said, you know, even 30 or 10 or 5 kilometers at a time, or sections at a time. That is such an important thing, and that's why I keep on telling many people, you know, one hill at a time for a cyclist, or just if you break it down, the more you break it down, the easier it gets, and the more manageable, I guess, it is.
Yeah.
And do you listen to music or?
Yeah, definitely listen to music and podcasts.
Yeah.
And yeah, depending on my mood, would be like, sometimes I really felt like listening to a podcast for distraction, and then other times I needed the music to kind of give me a bit more of a boost, or yeah. And then also,
do you have a favorite a favorite band or favorite song that you kept on playing all the time? Or
I did actually, but I'm not going to tell you what it was, because it was the most.
Why not?
It was a really, really surprising. I don't even know why or where it came from, but
I don't even know if I know it. My taste in music are so old that I don't know if I would know it. So
normally I've got like quite an eclectic mix of like I like one or two songs from an artist. I don't necessarily listen to a whole album or whatever. I've just got a nice shuffle on my playlist, but. Yeah. I'm not telling you, but
you're laughing. Okay. Maybe I'll tell you my story, and then you might share your story. But I did a camp. It's called Epic Camp, actually, with friends from New Zealand, and we were in the Pyrenees, and we did 10 days of triathlon training, and it was just epic, absolutely epic. So a bit like your challenge, but only for 10 days, actually, not 57. But anyway, and there were days which is so long on the bike and whatever, and at some point you just need the boost or whatever, and music was just I didn't know what to choose from, and I was missing my family a bit, and I started to put the songs from the what is it called, the Ice Princess, Frozen, the movie Frozen. You know, because my daughters love it so much, and I was putting that because it was reminding me of them. And of course, I know the lyrics because they play it all the time. So I was listening. Here I am in the Pyrenees, living the dream, cycling away, and I'm listening to Frozen. So there you go. So that's that's what kept me sometimes motivated. So no, you still don't want to share your.
I did listen to a lot of Cat Stevens and Van Morrison for the same reason. That just reminds me of memories of like my childhood, because that's the music my dad would listen to. But yeah, I don't want
to put you on the spot. Don't worry, it's okay.
There was I'll tell you a different story. This wasn't on my run recently, but a couple of years ago, I did the Route Burn, which is a trail or a mountain trail in Queenstown, and it was torrential rain and really windy, freezing cold day. And so I'd packed my iPod inside a couple of Snaplock bags, inside my dry bag, and then inside my backpack, put it on, put my like earphones in, and then realized that I had somehow set my iPod to be on repeat. So for 32K, I listened to the same song.
Oh my God.
And it was just too cold. My hands were too cold to change it. But it was like, it just was the perfect tempo, and I had it at a good volume, and it just, somehow it didn't bother me.
Oh, yeah. No, it's funny because music, I've also, I did a cycling race last year, and it was an ultra race. And I actually found, so maybe you were, well, okay, my race was only four days, yours was 57. So let's put it into perspective. And I found that I put music at the beginning or a podcast, and I had to kind of take it off because I was missing a lot. I just felt that I was missing out on the scenery. I was missing out on a lot of things. Granted, I didn't get as into all these emotions as you got, because it was only 4 days and there was really a finish line, which was pretty quick. But I felt that it was distracting more than anything.
Yeah.
Did you also get into that point where at some point you just, I mean, you have to take it off your ears? The thing is not, no?
Yeah, definitely. So some days I just wanted silence and to listen to the forest.
Yeah.
And I really found, I guess after spending, 5 weeks on my own, when I got to the South Island and had more friends joining me, I found it really hard at times to sort of concentrate on conversation because I was so used to just having my own thoughts and
your
stuff.
own, yeah.
And I really noticed that I had to work hard to listen to people.
You lost social skills.
Yeah, I had. And I also found when I ran through Wanaka Township, which is just close to Queenstown, and we went in for an ice cream during the run. It was a boiling hot day. It was 34 degrees. And we had to go through the township as part of the trail. And so we went into a cafe for an ice cream, and it was so noisy. I was so blown away because I'd just been on the trail for the last 6 weeks or whatever. And so I was really aware then of man, there are too many people around. But yeah.
And so you mentioned the next part I wanted to get. Well, before we get into the fundraising part, I want to get some. What would be the highlight or the low light of the run? Obviously, like you said, during the day you go through roller coaster of emotions. What would be your best memory, or and maybe the one where you were at the lowest?
I'll start with the low so I can finish on a high.
Exactly. I like that mentality. Look at that. That's good tip again.
So I think probably my lowest day was day 8. I was in
hospital then, or
I wasn't in hospital. I went to the hospital the next day.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was just in excruciating pain. I had just been battling all day. I was exhausted. I was going up a dusty forest road, so it wasn't even pretty. It was just hard work and a slog. And my calves, because I found out the next day that I had been retaining fluid because my electrolytes were out of balance. And so I had put on 4 kgs of weight in one day in a 24-hour period. And so everything was puffy. My calves were massive.
It's inflamed,
and
isn't it?
Yeah, it was, just fluid retention. But yeah, and so they were pushing, compressing against, really against the nerves and things and causing a lot of pain. And so, but I didn't, even though I'm a nurse, I just hadn't, I guess I'm pretty good at ignoring my body usually when when you're in a race, you have to. But I got to the top of that hill and I was just like, what am I doing? How am I going to do this for another 50 days? I'm not having any fun here. And I rang Mina in tears and I was like, what am I going to do? There's so much pressure. I've got the charity fundraising. I've got mum and dad out here. Everyone knows what I'm up to. I can't pull out, but I just don't want to do this. How am I going to cope? And she said, it's okay. It's day 8. And because she said she had a very similar experience on the same day when she did the journey. And she said, just go home, have a shower, have some food, wake up, tomorrow's a new day. And so that's what I did. And the next day I went to the doctors, got myself sorted. And then that was the only day of the entire trip that I didn't want to be there. That's a very honest truth to it. It was hard, of course. And there are lots of moments when you just, what am I doing? But I was so excited to be doing it.
Yeah.
That was the only day that I was really like, I don't want to do this.
And I guess at the beginning, it's even worse, right? If it happens at the end, you can kind of have that, you've already got that sort of warrior mentality to go. And at the beginning, you think, no. And like you said, the pressure of the fundraising and people knowing about it. And you think so early, it's like,
and it was that whole thing of I've still got 50 days to go. How can I do that? Whereas when I just started to go, okay, we'll worry about today, see if you can do today, and like just achieve what you can, bite sizes and day by day, and if you only make it for another week, then that's fine. And and then by doing it that way, I ended up doing the whole thing. But so that was probably my lowest.
Understandably, and so highlights.
So many, and just really small cheesy moments in each day. You're really battling, and then you come out over the top and you get the sunrise, and you're there all on your own, and it just feels magical. Or like some days I was, you're like I was dancing on the beach and no one around, and I guess I'm pretty hippie in that way. I love the world, I love nature, so it was a privilege to have so much of the trail to myself so much of the time.
You don't see many other runners then, do you, or people hiking?
There were no other runners that I'm aware of this year. Lots and lots of walkers, but even because of COVID, the trail's a lot more quiet than it usually is.
But so for you, the highlight was really more these little moments of joys throughout most of the days, I guess.
Like achieving something that I didn't think I could achieve, like doing river crossings on my own, or when you lose the trail and then you find it again, like if you get lost, and then you the first time you see, because in New Zealand all the trails are marked by little orange triangles, so like this simplicity of seeing an orange triangle when you feel like you're lost, it just is like, oh thank God, relief.
There's nothing worse going 5k wrong direction and you have to go back another. But you always had a little map on you, or you have? Is it on your mobile or something? Yeah,
I had paper maps, which I hardly ever used, to be honest, and then a trail app, which is it's a free app and it's amazing. It's got all the maps, elevation profiles, and
so your crew could see you at all times where you were on the that's great.
So
moving,
and then
not moving.
Keep going. What is she doing?
She's sleeping on the trail. What's going on? Did you fall asleep at some point? Did you just have a little power nap, or?
There was one day when I felt like I was going to fall asleep while running. I was exhausted. But otherwise, no. I never had a nap. I just carried on. I was always trying to get home early enough to get sleep at night. So it was. I didn't really stop during the days. Like I'd eat on the go. I guess I stopped if on the days that I could get to the camper, I'd stop and have lunch with mum and dad for like half an hour or whatever. But if I was out for the day, I'd just keep moving.
And there's obviously, it's a long time during the day. So what are you thinking about? Everything? What keeps the clock ticking? I mean, it's because it's so long. You're never bored?
No.
But the scenery must be amazing. So that's one thing.
I don't know. I don't know where I heard this from, whether it was a podcast or a conversation I had, but I've heard somebody talk about, life's so busy, and in normal times when I'm at work or whatever, my mind is constantly churning over what do I have to get done later, or who am I trying to catch up with, or I was meant to do that job, I've got to keep myself a note of I've got to get these things done tomorrow, and your brain's just constantly going all the time, right? And I think in racing, like when you do a marathon or a ultra marathon, it's sort of this opportunity to just focus on that for the time that you're doing it, and it kind of quietens everything else out, and you're just there running those Ks, watching your feet. I don't know if this is the same for everyone, but you really focus into that day, right?
Yeah.
And everything else is like, you'll worry about that later when you get home. And I guess I had that opportunity for 2 months of mostly what I was thinking about was just what I was doing. And it was really kind of peaceful time, because normally my brain is in overload and like constantly churning. So yeah, you think about everything, but you also think about nothing.
Yeah. No, it's nice
Yeah.
to, in a way, slow down and just, think of maybe, less things. That's what you said.
Yeah.
You know, we're always, like you said, so busy, and our lives are we pack our lives full of activities and things to do, and actually putting ourselves under pressure quite a lot. And by doing that, yes, you put yourself under pressure, but when you're out there, that's it. It's just you, your shoes, the trails, and it's pretty simple. It's quite binary.
Yeah.
You have to, put one foot in front of the other, and that's it.
Yeah. And keep eating.
Yeah, keep eating a lot, I guess. So I think it's a good time to switch to a bit the why. And you fundraised, you raised money for a charity. Do you want to maybe talk a bit about that? You mentioned it a little bit before.
So the charity is called Heart Kids, and I think they're an international charity, but in New Zealand at least they support kids with heart conditions, and they're more about supporting kind of the whole pathway. So it's not just the hospital kind of, they don't fund as such for surgeries and things, but it's more about support for travel to and from your hospital appointments, and support for the family. And they organize camps for kids that so that they can meet other kids with heart conditions and feel a bit more normal about it.
Yeah. Do you work yourself as a nurse with kids with these heart conditions?
A little bit, but I guess the biggest motivation for me doing that was that I have a pacemaker myself.
Yeah.
And so just and recognizing how lucky I was when I was diagnosed, with the support that I had around me, and how much you need that, just to kind of accept what's going on. And I was really lucky. Like, one of my best friends was a cardiac nurse, and I went traveling with another friend who was a cardiac technician, and then I've just got an amazing family, and so I had great support around me. And I just think what Heart Kids do in New Zealand is really amazing and important. So that's why I chose to fundraise for that charity.
So maybe tell us about your story, I guess. How did you? What happened? I mean, you got diagnosed with a heart issue. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, exactly that. I had a few problems when I was little, but nothing that they kind of just were happy to monitor it. And then it was when I was in my competitive rowing days that I started to have problems. And I passed out a few times, and then they realized that there was something going on with my heart, and so I had to have a pacemaker and a defibrillator put in.
Wow. So how old were you when that happened?
I was 23 when I had the device put in. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I've been so lucky with, obviously I've just run the length of the country.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it happened to 23. I mean, you're obviously, you said you were a competitive rower. That probably, I guess, had an impact on your rowing. I mean, you probably didn't row much after that competitively.
But so that was the end of my rowing career.
Yeah. So that's I guess that was probably very difficult to accept. But then on the other hand, what you're raising money for now are also for kids which are, I don't know, 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds, and they must be going through such a difficult time. So that's really when these charities do their best work in a way. Yeah.
And I think you've nailed it. It was hard. It was really, really hard to accept at the time. And I kind of went through all those, you get a bit angry and a bit like, why me? And why can't it be someone that doesn't care about sport? And yeah, trying to kind of figure out how to let go of it and just get on with life and figure out all the other cool things to do in life did take time. It was a journey. So I guess that's been the important part for me to have throughout this run, have people contact me who are either mothers or fathers of children with heart conditions, or I've had a few, like I had a 20-year-old guy the other day message me saying that he was about to get his pacemaker put in and just wanting to kind of bounce off me how I had felt, and, you know, and that's been such a pleasure to be able to, you know, help in some way, understanding a little bit of what they're going through.
Yeah. No, it must be absolutely. I mean, I've, you know, never gone through something like that myself personally or in my family, but it's really I guess the network you get, the experience that you can share, and the help that you because there's always problems, I mean, all around the world, and but it's more common than we think, right? And these heart defects, what's the sort of rates? Do you know more or less? I mean, in the statistics?
Well, I know in New Zealand it's about 12 new kids each week diagnosed with heart conditions. Obviously, there's a huge spectrum of, like, you know, there's a whole lot of different conditions that you can have. But yeah, there's quite a few. That's quite a big number.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, and but obviously that didn't stop you from doing something later on in such an incredible thing. So, you know, it's not because you have a heart defect that, you know, it means it's the end of your sports or end of your pastime or your leisure, whatever you want to do, right? It's I mean, you just ran 3,000 kilometers, so with a pacemaker.
Yeah, and that,
well, like, not in the pacemaker in your heart, not the pacemaker in front of you. You know, you're.
There's that's probably the thing the most passionate about, and the silver lining from going through something like that when I was in my young 20s, and then being a nurse, like just being constantly reminded that you never know what's going to happen and how long you're going to have in life, and just to go for the opportunities that you're given when you can. And so that was a big thing for me running the country. It was like, this opportunity is here in front of you, so grab it. And I guess that everyone is different, but regardless whether you have a health condition or not, push your boundaries, because that's where you feel the most alive.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how much do you raise then?
It's up to 27,000 New Zealand dollars, which is pretty cool.
27,000. I don't know. What's that in euros roughly? It's a bit.
No idea.
It's about 20,000 or something, I think. No, something like that. So, that's amazing. Isn't that like? So you were saying at the beginning you were hoping to raise 10,000 and you did 27. That's stunning.
I'm so grateful to everyone that's donated. It's been very humbling.
But not just the money as well. There's always, we remember of the money is like that number, but like you said, those stories, those kids or the parents or that 20-year-old guy who contacted you, that's like a real impact. That's priceless, right? So there's the money aspect, of course, that's going to bring tangible help to people, but then there's the direct mental support and raising awareness for that, which is just priceless. Absolutely.
And on my low days, I definitely would get my phone out and have a look at some of the comments of people, you know, supporting me, or and it meant so much to have people. It really inspired me or motivated me to keep pushing when people were watching, and the stories that they would share about their kids or how grateful they were to me for what I was doing, and it just made me go, keep doing it. This is worth it. So.
Well, that's, you know, we were talking about mental strength. You definitely had that extra help there.
Sure.
From them. I mean, obviously from your personal story to these people that you're now helping, that definitely brought a boost each day. I mean, every day, every time you felt a little bit low, I guess you were thinking about that, and then that lifts you up. I mean, you get that feeling probably of like, come on, you know, and now I do it for them, and Yeah, no, and so no, well done. I mean, for raising that much money, raising awareness, that's absolutely stunning. And yeah, so I mean, I think, I mean, I don't know, what would you, if someone was going to say to you, look, I'm thinking of doing a challenge, but I'm hesitating, what would you tell them? Maybe not the same trail. It could be, you know, half of that trail or a third of that trail, whatever it is, you know, whatever the challenge is. So you did something absolutely extraordinary, but you know,
Yeah, but I don't see it as extraordinary. I just went and I just wanted to see what I could do, and I went and tried, you know. And that is what I would say. Like, don't overthink it.
Exactly.
Don't count yourself out because you don't have necessarily the right, you know. Like, don't compare yourself against all these professional athletes and think, oh, I could never do that, because they only became professional because they kept trying, right? And yeah, so just go and do it, and you've got nothing to lose. Like, if you know, so if you can't compete or can't complete what you're attempting, well, you'll never win if you don't try, you know. Like, yeah,
you got to be in it to win it.
Yeah, and also other things come out of, you know, even a failure, you learn so much from that. And you can reframe it. Yeah, I just think go and put yourself out there, and be scared and be intimidated, because that's where you feel the most proud, when you achieve it. And yeah, don't overthink it, just do it.
Absolutely. I think, you know, you took a risk, right? It's like you put yourself out there, you set yourself this challenge. Like you said, don't overthinking, just do it, and that's it. I've got, you know, and I think when you think about it too much and think about the actual scale of the whole thing, it might be overwhelming, and you're just like, okay, no, I can't do it. But actually, you know, we can do pretty incredible things if we really want to.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you, I had never done back-to-back ultras before doing this event.
And here you go 57 of them.
Yeah, and I before going, at times I would you know, I definitely have freakouts, and I'd just be like, who do you think you are? Like, what do you think you're, like, how do you think that you're capable of this? But then I just put that aside and think, well, it doesn't matter. Like, all you can do is a try, and if you only make it through 2 days, then at least you gave it a go. Yeah.
So what's next for Brooke then? By the way, and you, when I tried to organize the interview, and you told me I'm working a shift, and I was like, what? And you came back, and 3 days later you're already working or something. That's just crazy.
Yeah, so back to normal life at the moment. There's a few local events that I'm kind of eyeing up in the next month or two. I'd really like to try and run a bit faster this year, because like I said, I've never done competitive running before, but now I'm interested to see what I can. I guess I've given myself a bit of confidence through doing the during the last 2 months, and so I want to see what I can do in the racing world. And then if COVID if we're ever allowed to travel again, then there's definitely some big overseas adventures, and maybe a few more FKTs that I'd like to attempt. So
wow,
we'll see.
So you got the
bag,
got the taste of it.
Yeah.
you want more. So
it's a great life. What is not to love about running, eating, running all day long?
Yeah. Well, no, absolutely, that's amazing. And if people want to follow you or reach out to you, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I guess my Instagram page, which is Brooke_BT_Thomas. And that's got links to the charity page as well. And yeah.
No, I really recommend for people to go on your Instagram page, because you really always wrote a lot of nice stories. You had really lovely pictures, and also on the charity page, where it's a really moving story, and definitely people should, if they can, spare a few a few New Zealand dollars, you call it dollars, yeah, New Zealand dollars, then that would be amazing. You know, I guess the charity still ongoing, right? You can donate, you can carry on donating.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you.
No, so thank you very, very much. Is there maybe, before we finish the interview, is there something, maybe some people you want to thank, something that you want to share that we haven't talked about? Is there a final thing you want to say?
I should probably mention Aerobic Edge, because that's the coach, my coach, who really was amazing through the whole journey. So he put a program together for me before I left, and then gave great nutritional advice. He actually joined me on some of the run, and he was great at helping me push the social media side, because I didn't have time to do that. But that was good for gaining awareness for the charity. So yeah, Adam Keane from Aerobic Edge, thank you very much. And then mum and dad, like, it goes, you know, it's the cliche line, but I literally wouldn't have been there without them. And I'm so privileged to have the family I have who support me in all these crazy things that I want to do. Yeah, Mina Holder and George Henderson, the previous record holders, they are absolutely amazing humans, and they've very much had a huge part to play. And Kev, so George, who set an incredible record last year, he did the trail in 49 days to set the males record.
Wow.
His dad was absolutely monumental in my build up with all of the logistics. They shared all of their information that they had used in their year with my parents, and they met up with my parents before we went away, and then they continued to be, you know, they were on the phone most days while we were on the trail, checking in with me. They came and met me at various spots just to support us and see how we were going. And yeah, the information that they provided was huge. So that was incredible. I've just met so many amazing people throughout doing this, and had so much support. It's hard to thank everyone, but
no, I mean, it really sounds like you had the time of your life. So, I mean, I can only say well done. It's just phenomenal. So really, really well done. And I deserve a little bit of rest, normal life. And I think we'll catch up again hopefully soon, obviously, but in your next adventure, wherever that may take you. And hopefully we can talk about that next one again.
Awesome. Well, thanks for giving me the chance to reflect on it and talk about it, because it's such a whirlwind, and then you forget things so quickly, right? You know, so it's good to kind of have to pull out details from the trip again.
It'll be on the internet, so it'll be there forever, you know.
Right.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.